Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan again with rpkcustoms.com. I know it's been a couple weeks since I made a video going through all of my new V2 kits, which are going to be released shortly. The video for that is probably going to be coming next, so keep an eye out for that. This video is going to be about my new personal V2 that I built for myself. So if you watched my last video, I think it was my last video, of the scrap flex that I built, I said in that video that I was digging through my junk drawer and pulling out a lot of parts for that build. And I ended up coming across a V2 that has been sitting in my junk drawer for a while. And I decided I was going to pull it out and do some modifications to it and update it a little bit. And I liked it so much that I ended up selling my personal V2, the old personal V2 that I had, and keeping this one. So here it is. Now, this was the very first V2 that was ever machined from my specifications. Now, I went through and I remachined a lot of this because there was a lot of sections that were not accurate. So I went through and I remachined the grenade section, and I remachined the neck. I also remachined the emitter. I made a new spinning emitter nipple. And I replaced the old pommel with one of my updated pommels. See if you guys can see the circle machining mark and the pommel damage. So like I said, this has been sitting in my junk drawer for a while, and I was always trying to figure out something to do with it. I was originally going to turn it into a V3 because the top ring right here was slightly smaller than the rest of the rings, which is accurate to a V3. But once I got done machining it, I kind of fell in love with the hilt, and I just decided to make a V2 because I can't help myself. I love the V2. So I went with the V2. Now I also locked. This was set up just like my original very first run of V2s that I did way back in 2017. So the booster section would unthread, and the emitter dish would unthread. But I ended up locking the threads on the booster. So this is all one piece from the emitter dish all the way down to the bottom of the booster section. And there are a few things on this that are not all that accurate, but I'm okay with that. To me, this hilt has a lot of history behind it, or at least personal history behind it, to where the inaccuracies aren't really going to bug me. The first inaccuracy is I did not drill the set screw holes in the bottom of the, or right under the emitter dish right here. I did that because I wanted to be able to take this clamp on and off a little bit easier. If this was locked in place, the only way I would be able to get the clamp on is to stretch it out a little bit and move it over the booster section, which is not really the best thing to do, especially if it's already painted. You run the risk of accidentally scratching the paint as you put it on. And I just didn't really want to do that. So the emitter dish does unthread, and you can see that the emitter nipple does spin. So that's the first real major inaccuracy with this. I could very easily turn this into a spinning emitter if I wanted to. I could just cut the neck right here and drill those holes and just reattach everything. So that's not really a big deal. I might go back and make this a spinning emitter at some point, but I like the way it's set up right now. Maybe if I get a vintage clamp and I don't plan on ever taking the clamp off again, I might make this a spinning emitter. The second major inaccuracy on this is that the grenade section is a little bit shorter. They were a little bit shorter on my original V2 run, so you guys probably won't be able to tell. But that's them lined up side by side, and you can see that the new V2 grenade section is a little bit longer. But again, that doesn't really bother me because this thing has a little bit of personal history, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. Another inaccuracy is I have not taken the side clamp bar off. That's a super easy fix. I can take that off anytime I want. That's just one thing I've never really been a fan of on the V2 is the missing sidebar here, the clamp bar. And the Master Replicas, the old Master Replicas static V2 prop that they came out with, that still has a clamp bar on it. So, you know, this is kind of an ode to the Master Replicas right there. And the Master Replicas even has a thinner upper ring in the grenade section. So I felt like that kind of matched. Again, this is something that I might change down the road. I might one day decide that I want to go full accurate with this and pop that clamp bar off. But I also kind of wanted to set this up how it was during filming of Return of the Jedi. So I usually set these up and build them how the prop is sitting today with the gaffer tape, which is all loose and kind of beat up. I chose to wrap the gaffer tape a little bit tighter, like how we see in Return of the Jedi. So it's a little bit different than the builds that I usually do. And I also used the stencils that I designed for my new V2 run. I put my new stencils on here. So you can see, hopefully you can see if I can get it to zoom in on the actual lightsaber instead of my face. So these are the stencils that are going to be applied to pretty much all of my new V2s. I think I'm going to, the new V2s I'm going to do a little bit different. I am going to be painting and weathering the majority of them, and there's only going to be a handful that I'm going to sell as a raw kit if somebody wants to paint them themselves. But they're going to be ready to go as a kit that you can build yourself already painted. The hard part's going to be done. But this is a video on this V2. Like I said, my next video is going to be going over my new V2 run, which are these right here. So the personal history that I have with this thing is pretty cool. It is the very first V2 that was ever machined from my blueprint that I gave to my machinist at the time, which was also a friend of mine. And this has a different internal structure than what any of my other V2s have. So it's a little bit heavier. My original run was not going to be installable. We decided to bore them out to make them installable because I kept getting a lot of requests for installable V2s at the time. Originally, I just want a static V2 replica for myself. And that's what this was supposed to be. So I think the inside was bored out at like maybe 7/8 of an inch. So the ID is a little bit thicker in the grenade section. Well, all over the hilt, it's thicker than all the other V2s. My newest run has replicated my very, very first V2 replica. So the ID of these are a little bit smaller, or a lot smaller than any of my old generations, which makes them heavier. So when I first made this thing, I was going around and hitting the Comic-Con circuits. So I lived in Florida at the time, and I would hit Tampa Comic-Con and MegaCon, and I was hitting Orlando Comic-Con and MegaCon, and I was also going to Dragon Con up in Georgia. And when I was doing the Comic-Con circuit, I was always the first one there on a Thursday and the last one to leave on a Sunday. And by doing that, I was able to kind of talk to a lot of the guests that they had, like the celebrity guests. So this thing has been in the hands of Austin St. John, the original Red Power Ranger. I got there on a Thursday morning. He was setting up his booth, and I got to talking with him. And turns out he's a little bit of a Star Wars fan, so he played around with this for a minute while we talked about the original couple seasons of Power Rangers, which I'm also a fan of Power Rangers, so that was pretty cool. It's met this thing has met almost all of the original Power Rangers, which was pretty cool. That was kind of my goal when I was doing the Comic-Con circuit, was to meet all of the Power Rangers, the original Power Rangers from 1992 or 3, whenever the show premiered. And this has also been in the hands of Michael A. Stockpole, the author behind the book I, Jedi. And I got his autograph. I'll put a couple pictures on the screen of all the people that I've met with this lightsaber. So like I said, this was sitting in my junk drawer for years, and probably since like 2018, I think, shortly after my very first V2 run came out. I just kind of felt like this was out of date and not very accurate. And I'll put pictures up of how this looked before I did the modifications to it, and you'll be able to see just all the inaccuracies. There was a lot of material that had to be taken off. And once I did all the remachining on it, it actually turned out really nice. And like I said, I decided to just keep this one for myself, just because I have some nostalgic value for it. But you can see I did all of the accurate emitter dings, the pommel dings. Now, the pommel I actually did a little bit different on this one. Typically I use just aluminum black, and I will age the pommel that way. I used a different chemical on the pommel. So if you look at the pictures, the reference photos that we have of the actual prop, we can see that the booster section is a little bit darker than what the pommel is, but the pommel still looks the aluminum still looks very aged on the pommel. It just has a different shade. It looks a little more gray. And aluminum black tends to obviously turn aluminum a black color. So I used a different chemical that ages aluminum but doesn't turn it black. So it comes out more of a gray color like this. And I really liked how this turned out. So I think I'm going to be doing that on all my V2s from here on out. You can see I did the little ding in the booster section right there. I tried to add as many accuracy upgrades as possible. That way, if I really want to make this thing extremely accurate, I can go back and it'll be pretty easy to do. Like I said, cutting the neck off and turning this into a spinning emitter, it's really not going to be that hard. And same with popping this little clamp bar off right here. The only thing I'm not going to be able to change is the length of the grenade section, which is fine by me. Like I said, I have some nostalgic value for this, so. And I do have to go back and add, you can see the little V notch right there. I'm going to have to go back and make a little half moon notch in that just to make it a little bit more accurate, because we can see that in the reference photos as well. Now, all the hardware that I used, this is a Roman's clamp. And I chose to leave this clean just to make it look a little bit more like how it looked in the movie. The card is a sloth furnace, and I soldered the traces on and weathered it myself. The lever is from Wanawanga. And I've added a little bit of rust and grime on the lever. The cone knob is also from Wanawanga, and the D-ring as well. The boot stud is a vintage. And slowly but surely, I might just try to make this thing all vintage. Like I said, I kind of want to get a vintage clamp for this. And I just missed out on a vintage cone knob. I saw a vintage cone knob posted for sale on a group, a Facebook group, but I was just like 20 minutes late and I missed that sale. So I'm on the hunt for another vintage cone knob. When I was digging through all my parts in my junk drawer, trying to build that scrap flex, and I came across this, it's kind of been breaking my heart that this thing was in a junk drawer. I really just felt like it needed to be fixed up and updated to more like how my my newest V2 runs are. Oh, another inaccuracy of this that I didn't cover is the emitter dish itself is a little bit wider. And I actually machined some off of this. It was wider than what this is. So you probably can't tell too much. I don't know if you'll be able to tell or not. The emitter dish on my newest V2s is not as wide as what this one is. Now, I kept this a little bit wider for a reason. Back in, what was it, 2016, I believe, I bought an Anakin Starkiller unibody. Those were his very first, I think they were his very first V2 lightsaber replicas that he came out with. There was just a solid lightsaber prop. There was no parts that you could take apart or mess with. Everything was solid on it. And on the unibodies, the emitter dish was a little bit oversized, and I kind of like that. So I decided to keep it a little bit on the larger side. Just has a little bit of a different feel to it. So if I can get away from the light a little bit, you can see that the booster is a little bit darker than what the pommel is. When I get right up close to it, I think the light kind of drowns everything out. But I've been building this kind of here and there in between commissions, and I just finished this up, so I wanted to do a quick video kind of just to show it off. Like I said, this is going to be my new personal V2. Even though it's not super accurate, it's still accurate enough for me, and I've got some nostalgic value for it. But I just really like the heft of this. You know, again, when I finished machining this and I finally put it together, once it was in my hand, I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to turn this into a V3. I'm a huge V2 fan. So any chance that I have to build a V2, I'm happy. And this is going to stay a static prop. Actually, let me see if I can find my Allen key. I can kind of show you what it looks like inside. So I machined this just like my newest V2 run. I machined this with a pommel that inserts into the booster section. I still have to make a groove in there for the set screw to ride in. But you can see kind of how thick that wall is in there. And that adds a ton of weight, which I really, really like. That's something I really like with the Roman Props V2. Since his is made out of steel, it's really heavy. And I might keep one of my newer V2s for myself as well and turn this into a motorized stunt, because these do have a fully spinning emitter. And I'm pretty sure there's enough room in here to fit a motor and all that. So I might be doing that with one of my newest run V2s. But I just wanted to make a short video to go over this. I thought it was really cool. And I'm just really happy with the way this turned out. So thanks for watching, guys. If you are interested in my new V2 run, like I said, that's going to be the very next video I put out. I've just been trying to get through a couple commissions before I really start digging into those. But thanks for watching, guys. May the Force be with you.